Hello and welcome to A Nerd's Guide to World Building. How did the setting that you weave come to be the way it is? How did civilizations sprout from the chaos of the wild, or how did the great civilizations of the past fall into that wild, ruinous chaos? Before I answer how these questions and more should be answered, I'd like to say that this is a young channel that needs your help. If you're not already subscribed, please consider it. It's free, and you can always unsubscribe if you want. Also, if you like the video, be sure to like. And without further ado, let's dive into the world of old beginnings and recent threats to its end. A new setting that I'll make in this video. Let's call it Verdaria. Here, I will split the video into three parts. The first is world conception, the second is world filling, and the third is world growth. If you want to skip to section 2, skip to this timestamp. And section 3 is at this one. The first thing to think of when crafting a setting is the lay of the land. I typically start with a rough map of the country and go from there. But for the sake of simplicity, in this video I will use the age-old method of taking a bag of dice and dumping them on a piece of paper. I typically make the d4s, the pointy ones, mountains, and the d6s, normal dice, bodies of water. After the roll, you should arrange some things. First, in real life, mountains are created in ranges as tectonic plates rub against each other. So your world should follow these rules. However, if you do decide to make a Hobbit-style lonely mountain, it should be incredibly prominent. The mountain does not follow natural laws, and the people of this world would have noticed that. In Verdaria, the mountain will be called the Planar Summit. It is a place where the four elemental planes as well as the Feywild come together to form a swirling storm of magical energy, making the mountain nearly impossible to research and even harder to climb. Now that the landscape is the way you'd like it, place your settlements. Remember while doing this that civilizations always centralize over or near water. Some of the oldest cultures known to man were the Indus River Valley civilizations, whose success depended on being near water. Remember that the people in these settlements need a way to survive. For instance, it's really tempting to have a dwarven city in the heart of a mountain, like the classical depictions in Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. But this raises a question. How does such a large civilization get a hold of food and water? In The Hobbit, there was a proper explanation. The dwarves traded crafted goods with the city of Dale for provisions. I would recommend writing in the necessities of life among the settlements of your world setting. This is my favorite part and where the fun begins. The first three sets of questions you should ask in a fantasy setting are these. 1. Are there origins of this country? Were there any pre-existing nations or previous technologies that lay below the surface of the world? And if so, why did that civilization fall? Historically, it is common for nations to fall due to uprisings, weak government, or general lawlessness. For Verdaria, though, I think I'll go with a more post-apocalyptic feeling. In Verdaria, there was an extremely powerful empire of draconic beings called the Krakalites. But the current-day Verdaria knows them only as the Preeminence. They had incredible technologies that allowed them to live away from water and have plenty of food for the entire world. However, at some point, the Krakalites saw themselves on an equal playing field with the gods. They attempted to create engines and let their cities fly to reach up to the gods and show that they were superior. However, the massive amounts of magical energy that the engines used caused them to erupt like magically powered nuclear warheads. Perhaps it was the gods, perhaps it was the Krakalites' hubris, but in a matter of days, their civilization had crumbled. The excess magic created many of the strange creatures seen in the setting today, such as owlbears and giant animals of all varieties. The point here is that the world has a history, known or unknown, and that history most likely had an effect on the world to date. The current society mimics the problems of the previous one, as the use of day-to-day magic grows every day. This brings us to the second set of questions. What role does magic play in the everyday lives of people? Is it common enough that every peasant has access to a shovel of extra shoveling? Okay, bad example, but you get my point. In Verdaria, magic is now exclusively available to the wealthy and powerful. This is to keep the commoners from getting their hands on it and causing a revolution to the newfound power. much like the Krakalites attempted with the gods. This brings us to the final set. What is the government like? Do people enjoy life, or are there fundamental problems with society that need fixing? For instance, Verdaria is ruled by an elite class of dwarves and humans who retain power through their creative use of magic. People are typically content as the life they lived is the only one they have known. However, to an outsider, the town guard would seem strict, controlling, and the people would seem poor. The final part of this step is simple. Create characters and other people that the characters in your story are more likely to interact with. In D&D, this means make NPCs that your players are guaranteed to run into. The rest can be left to step 3. In this step, you should consider the possibility for change in your world. As you know, political climates are always changing in the world around us. In the same way, your setting should be developing, following a theme. Verdaria is developing to be more prideful in their magic, and approaching the hubris of the previous Krakalites. In this way, you can create themes for your story before even introducing a protagonist or antagonist. Verdaria struggles with ideals of progress, freedom, and repeating past mistakes, and its characters will embody these themes. This next part is extremely important. Do not overdevelop every single aspect of the world. Not only will this drive you crazy, but it's much more important to focus on the general everyday lives of people in the setting to make it more believable. Well, is the town a fishing town? Well, it should probably have a prominent bait shop then. Let the characters of the story guide the plot, and in the case of D&D, let your players develop the world as they go. There's a fine line between writing out every little aspect of detail about the world, and letting it develop on its own as the story continues. But as previously mentioned, Verdaria may be developing towards a new threat that shakes its very existence. This plotline has to be facilitated by someone, right? In my opinion, the antagonist is the most important part of creating a compelling story. But writing them will have to wait, at least until next time. Well, now that you have your map, your country, and your civilization, you should be all set to start a D&D campaign or book. Feel free to use Verdaria as a template, or use it in your own home games. I would be flattered. Thank you so much for watching the entire video. If you liked, make sure you hit that like button. Like goal for this week is 15, so if we can hit that, it would be amazing. And make sure to subscribe if you're new. Comment your favorite world setting below, and I'll see you later. Once again, it is off script, me. I want to be real with you guys. I don't want to be talking off a script the whole time. So I just wanted to say, actually, thank you so much for watching the video. I finally have a link for you to click on, getting some content rolling. I upload every Wednesday. And more than anything, most importantly, stay nerdy.